Hey friends, it's Alex from Vulture Culture, and today we're going to look at some of my favorite sounds from the Legend of Zelda series that are in Spectrasonics OMNISPHERE. Before we get started, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's jump right in. So I think a lot of people don't know that Koji Kondo and the other composers for the Legend of Zelda series are actually huge Spectrasonics fans, and that a lot of the sounds in the video games from Ocarina of Time forward actually are in Spectrasonics OMNISPHERE. So you might be thinking to yourself, how could it possibly be that Koji Kondo could score Ocarina of Time, which came out in 1998, with OMNISPHERE, which came out in 2008? And the answer is that before Spectrasonics was a virtual instrument company, they were actually a sample CD making company, and they made a CD in particular called Distorted Reality that Koji Kondo used a lot. To start, I want to say that I didn't come up or I didn't find these sounds myself. Other people have found these on the internet, but I wanted to show some of my favorites off to you. And I did find a couple of them that I want to show. So first off, we're going to check out Enigmatic, which you might recognize from the Great Deku Tree. And that sound is from the Distorted Reality CD I was talking about. And it's crazy to me because the entire Deku Tree dungeon soundtrack is basically this one sample, slowed down a bit. If you listen to the OST, you can hear that it's not just the sample being played. There's sort of like a little piano sound that's being played over the top of it, like synth piano sound. It blows my mind that the entire dungeon is basically this one sample. Next up, we're going to hit Iceland 1, also from Distorted Reality. You might recognize this one from Majora's Mask. So at the end of like a 3-day cycle in Majora's Mask, this really haunting music plays for like the final hours before the moon crashes. And it's this sample, Iceland 1, that plays in the background while some strings come in. It's some of the most beautiful and haunting music in the whole Legend of Zelda series. And once again, it's basically this sample from Distorted Reality. This is definitely exactly what was used in the N64 or in the game. Next up is Elves, which is used in the Stone Tower Temple soundtrack in Majora's Mask. This is more of like an incidental sample that shows up in there, but it is iconic. So I thought I'd include it in my favorites that were used. And by the way, I just want to say, like, I'm just hitting my like favorites off of these samples, but they used a lot of Distorted Reality in both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I think the beat for Jabu Jabu's dungeon is from that. There's just a lot that they used. And it's funny to think that, you know, when you go back and you listen to those soundtracks, they sound so beautifully composed, but like a lot of the actual soundtrack is not really like Koji Kondo played that on a keyboard. It's like a sample. Hopefully I'm not ruining any of the magic. All right, let's move on to Twilight Princess, which is like everybody's favorite. There's a sample that I found online listed as Solia, which I don't know if that existed in on the Distorted Reality 1 or 2 CD, but there is Glissolia in OMNISPHERE, which is from Distorted Reality. What you have to do is if you start the sample at the beginning, you don't really get what it sounds like, but if you move the sample in a bit here, you kind of, you can get that Twilight sound, right? So I'm not playing the exact notes from the Twilight, but that is totally the entire sound is like something that goes like this, like. So you just have to move the sample start a little bit. Well, that's even better if I do it like that. It's just crazy how, again, these samples were used in a really creative way. In this case, where you don't hear the beginning of the sample to give it that sort of a sound. But it's such the first time you step into the Twilight in Twilight Princess, it's so like it's just such a moment, and you hear that sound, and it's just, again, I love the fact that some of the biggest moments in the Legend of Zelda history are accompanied by a Spectrasonics sample. So with the other sounds, I found the locations of those samples online, but I wanted to contribute and show you some of the sounds that I found that were used in the Skyward Sword soundtrack. So Skyward did come out after Omnisphere. So they, instead of these being samples, these are actual patches that you can find in Omnisphere that they use to score the soundtrack. Skyward Sword has some of the best music in the entire series. I know the game itself is kind of divisive, but the fact that they used a full orchestra and it's just the most gorgeous music, I think, of the whole series. So anyways, you might recognize this sound from the Silent Realms. So this is the Luminosonic light bulbs preset or patch from Omnisphere 1. And what they did was they actually took microphones, and I think if you click on this, it'll give us some info about it. Info notes. So it's created using light bulbs of different sizes and watts. They were hit with different intensities in order to create a 6 velocity layer multi-sample. So you can see they use these condenser microphones to pick up the sound, and they were placed very close because the original sound is very weak. So you can hear the filament of the tungsten ringing when the glass is hit. And it's just this incredible sound. And so it's the sound of these light bulbs, and then they're processed with some limiting and some chorus echo and reverb. And it's just gorgeous. And so this isn't the original patch, though. I had to tweak it. All I did was I copied the first 2 layers onto layers C and D and then lowered them an octave. But yeah, it's just this, again, the first time you go into the Silent Realm in Skyward, you just get this. It's just such a big moment, and it's accompanied by a Spectrasonics sound. And I love that so much. And the fact that all of these sounds are in Omnisphere already, like you don't need to add these sounds to Omnisphere. They were always there. If you own Omnisphere, the entire Distorted Reality CD is in there, as well as Hans Zimmer's bizarre guitars, choir samples, like all sorts of stuff Spectrasonics did before Omnisphere. It's all in Omnisphere now. All right, last but not least, I found this patch in Omnisphere. It's called Windy Pseudo Pan Flute, and it's the sound of this gorgeous flute that comes in the first time you go to the Lanayru Sand Sea region in the game. So maybe you'll recognize it. And it is just a gorgeous sound. And it was really just by happenstance that I came across this sound one day when I was searching through sort of fluty patches that were made. And I heard it and I was like, wait a second, I know that sound. And I went back and listened to the soundtrack, and that is the sound in Lanayru Sand Sea. And with this and the Luminosonic light bulbs patch, I haven't seen anybody online actually post that those were used in Skyward. So hopefully this adds to the conversation about what instruments and samples that the composers for the Legend of Zelda series used for the games. But I just think between this and the light bulbs preset that it's just like, these are my 2 favorite sounds in the whole soundtrack, and they are built into Omnisphere. You already have the patch if you have Omnisphere. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about this, as well as if I missed anything, and I'll see you in the next video.